couple of months ago, I bought my first dip pen, just for fun. But I was so confused about which ones to buy. There were so many choices. Which nib should I get? Did I buy the right size? What is this weird looking holder? But through trial and error, I found something that worked for me. So here's a little guide on how to use a dip pen. First of all, let's talk about what a dip pen is. There's some misconception about what a dip pen is, and a lot of people get them confused with fountain pens. Something that I get a lot of when I'm drawing with a dip pen. Oh, are you using a fountain pen? What's the difference? Well, to put it simply, the fountain pen is the middle ground between a dip pen and a ballpoint pen. That is to say, fountain pens have the nib of a dip pen, but with a built-in ink cartridge for convenience. Which brings me to my next point, the construction of a dip pen. A dip pen is made out of only two parts, the holder and the nib. The holder is exactly what you think it is, the handle part that holds the nib. There are two types of holders. If you're like me and you're getting a dip pen just to draw, get a straight holder. The ones that, look like a normal pen. The oblique holders are primarily for calligraphy and might not be suitable for drawing. You might end up liking the oblique ones, but if it's your first pen, I would recommend you get the straight ones. Now for the fun part, the nib, the heart and soul of your dip pen. Now there are many different kinds to choose from, and that's part of the fun of dip pens. You get to play with all these different flexibilities and shapes, but sometimes having too many choices can be a bit daunting. So let me introduce you to my go-to nib, the Browse 361 Steno, aka the Blue Pumpkin. It's been a long-time favorite for many calligraphers, and it's easy to see why. It's got a lot of flex, so you can vary your stroke width really easily. It holds a lot of ink, and most importantly, it's really cheap. So if you end up not liking it, hey, no skin off your back. If you had to get one nib to try out, this would be the one. Sometimes you see these dip pen starter packs where they bundle a bunch of nibs together with a holder. I would say don't bother with those because the nibs that come with them are pretty bad and are only useful in specific use cases. Instead, save yourself some money and buy a holder you like, along with a couple of individual nibs that you're interested in. As far as whether your nib will fit into your holder, don't worry about it too much. Nowadays, nibs are all designed with standardized shank sizes, so you won't run into that problem too much. But if you do, you can get one of these with holes for two standard sizes, and it should fit most of the nibs in the market. Inks. I must admit, this is what drew me into dip pens in the first place. The sheer variety of inks to draw with. There come in so many pretty colors to choose from. Don't worry too much about which types of ink to buy. Sumi ink, India ink, walnut ink. You don't have to stress about it as they all pretty much work with dip pens. Just pick a nice color and you're good to go. I personally have a bottle of Sumi ink that I got for $2 that I've been using as my everyday go-to. Now for something that I didn't realize before using a dip pen, paper matters. In general, you want a paper that's suited for ink, obviously, so it doesn't bleed through or buckle from getting too wet. But you also want to look at the texture of the paper. You want a smooth paper that allows the ink to sit on the surface and dry out cleanly. A paper with a lot of texture breaks the surface tension of the ink and causes your ink to bleed out and make your lines go all fuzzy. It's not really a big deal, but it can be annoying. The rest is pretty straightforward. Care for your pen nibs. Make sure to clean them after use and dry them out properly so they don't rust. Store them in a dry environment. Don't press down on them too hard. So all this begs the question, why use a dip pen? Why go through all this trouble, buying inks, washing your nibs, finding the right kind of paper? Why not just use a ballpoint pen? Because it's fun. There's something undeniably enjoyable about opening up your ink pot, dipping your pen into the ink, shaking off the excess, and then drawing a line with it. After all, why bother grinding your own beans, making sure that the water is just at the right temperature, and then meticulously pouring your water like some kind of psycho when you can just pop down to Starbucks for an Americano? Besides the fact that Starbucks coffee is pretty arse, there's a joy to the inconvenience of it all, the ritual of it. It makes me really happy. And lately, I've been so caught up with being as efficient as possible. As a professional artist, it's part of the job. You want to do the best you can as fast as you can. At the end of the day, I'm paid to deliver a product, and the faster I can do it, the better I am at my job. What's the quickest way to get to the minimum viable product? It's a crazy process, this. Fun? Yes, but crazy. It's so easy to get caught up in the frenzy of production that drawing starts to feel like work, which it is. But drawing can and ought to be fun. I'm so mindful of every little thing when I draw with a dip pen. Did I dip my nib properly? How hard should I press down? Is the angle right so the ink is flowing properly? How much ink do I have left on my nib? All these little things add up into a sort of performative experience. I want to get every little bit just right. And this process is renewed every time I try out a different nib or a different kind of ink. Each little part reacts differently to every other little part. Not to mention, I feel like Bilbo Baggins whenever I use a dip pen. It makes drawing fun again. And the sound it makes. I don't listen to music when I use a dip pen because I want to be fully engaged. It's almost meditative. The world slows down and all I have is this pen. Oh, and I know this is stupid, but it took me a while to figure it out. Draw with the pen nib facing down, not up. This video is brought to you by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes made for creatives like you and I. Now, if this video has gotten you interested in inking, why not check out the class Illustrating with Ink by Roman Muradov. The class goes into an in-depth dive of inking with a pen nib as well as with a brush. And if you don't know what to draw, why not check out Illustrated Journaling by Dylan Merzwinski. So if you're running low on ideas, why not follow along and get those creative juices flowing? So the one that I've been following along with is The Art of the Story, Creating Visual Narratives by Debbie Millman. Now, I'm personally a huge fan of art and design that incorporates storytelling within. And in this class, I learned how to craft and edit my story and use that as the base for my art. So Skillshare is specifically made for learning, so there are no ads so that you can focus on whatever it is you are currently interested in. And they're always coming up with new classes, so I promise you there's always something new to discover. So the first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description below will get a free trial to Skillshare's premium membership. Explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in creativity with Skillshare.